Welcome to the Home Studio Hangout podcast, where we explore what it's like building, running, and working out of a home studio with your hosts, Joshua Matotek, Andrew Simmons, and many guests in different areas of the music industry.
And welcome back to the Home Studio Hangout podcast. I am your host, Drew. I am here with my co-host, Josh.
Hi.
And today we are here with Atlanta-based producer, tracking engineer, and mixing engineer, Darth Moon. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are y'all doing?
I'm doing
good.
Pretty solid. Going into I actually drove to Hilton Head this weekend, which was a terrible idea because July 4th traffic. So I sat in traffic for like 7 hours. So
wow,
That's fun.
Glad to be home today and not driving for forever. But yeah, dude, we're super stoked to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, me and you have been kind of interact a little bit on Instagram and stuff like that. But we met. I think I met you at the Woe Is Me show.
The comeback
show.
That's when we did meet.
Yeah, and then Ian kind of gave us the intro there. So shouts to IJR.
Facts. Yeah, Ian's a cool kid, man. I've known him since he was probably like 14 or 15. Like so I've known him for a while.
It's very funny. This is actually you'll probably find this interesting too. But so I was talking to Ian the other day, and I was like, he's coming on the show, and I was like, oh, sick. Ian said, the first show I ever played, he was also there playing with I think it might have been Blake's band or
so De La Rosa.
I think it was when you were in De La Rosa, like way back in the day. He was like, so he's pretty much been there since the beginning of me doing like scene stuff. I was like, that's pretty dope. It's also really cool that like, because of where you are now, you came up in more of the like scene, right? Like the heavier and like post-hardcore scene. So let's kind of give a little bit of an intro into like you getting into music and talking about that kind of stuff.
Oh man. Honestly, like music has always just been probably one of the biggest focal points of my life. You know, like it's always just been in my family and everything. People have been musical, my cousin Hans, obviously we know his story and everything. And, like I just got into music and everything and just playing drums and just listening to everything my parents listened to. So stuff from like the 70s and the 80s. And then what was current now, getting into like Under Oath and, like Pillar, all the Christian rock / metal bands and everything. And then basically Hans was in a group and I was playing drums and they needed somebody new, so I just joined the group. And back then it was, I think, like maybe This Is Not an Exit was the first name. I think that's what Ian said it was. And then that went from that to All But Empty, and then the last iteration of it was Manchester on Fire. And then after that it was some time off, and then I jumped into De La Rosa like 2010, I think, or something like that. 2009
with Blake Aldridge and all them.
It was Blake and Kenny and Devo and Michael Phelps. That whole group. That was a good time though, man. It was fun. And but there was also, all right, I kind of left something out. There was in like 2009. There was a time period, and this is like something I don't talk about a lot. And I'm like an unknown or just an unnamed person in the whole Woe Is Me saga, because the original lineup was me. It was Hans, it was Tim, Kevin, Tim, Cheryl, Tim. It was the original lead guitars. And then Ben and Corey. So, I'll hear like here's the origin of What Was Me. And I'm just like, whoa. What about me?
A little bit before that too. Yeah, dude, it also seems like everybody in the Atlanta scene from that time period is all just like inundated with a bunch of other bands too.
It's cool to see how like where everybody has went, like even in that Gwinnett scene back then with like, how the evolution of Change Stokes to what was me, and just, you know, the bands that formed and meshed and went and did different things, and then the people that don't even do music and the people that are still doing it, you know?
Yeah.
And then even with like the newer groups, like, you know, the only people I really know of is like Young Mountain. And then, you know, like stuff that Ian's involved with, Matt Mulkey, you know, all of that whole crew, like, you know.
Yeah, no, that's
man.
How did you go from like, I am in the band and kind of in a part of these bands into like more recording stuff?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like being in the small like recording studios, being in bands when I was playing, it was always like an interest. And for me, I'm just like I love technology and I've always been into tech. So it's kind of like a meshing of two of my interests, you know?
Yeah.
And then even like, you know, listening to so much stuff from like my parents and what they were into when, you know, they were growing up, just even hearing it sonically and hearing how it evolved over, you know, generations and stuff, and just how it got better and just how production changed and just the sonics of it. That was just interesting to me, you know? And
For
so
sure.
I just went to school for it, and that was like the foundation. And, you know,
did you
just went from there.
Did you go AI?
No, I went to SAE.
SAE? Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was cool because when I went, it was like less than 50 people there, I think. So it was a very more close-knit kind of thing, but it was fun. Yeah.
I remember SAE back in the day being like a lot more low-key than it is now. Yeah. And it's like, I feel like a lot of people that went in the earlier days got a lot more out of it than they would.
I would agree, because, you know, just me being in different studios and managing them and having people come from the school that are interning, and how certain things they weren't taught that I was like, well, that's interesting. You know, it's like just simple things like session procedures and studio etiquette. That was like a class they dropped, you know, and when I went to school, they were like, look, this is the most important class. Pay attention. And I was like, okay, I'll pay attention.
For sure.
And then you can tell, you know, it's like the quality of like the student that's coming out, not, you know, saying that they're bad, but it's just different, you know.
I feel like they miss all of the interpersonal skills that a lot of people are probably would have been really driving in, whereas like now they're missing the whole like how to talk to an artist, how to be there for an artist or a band or a producer, or, you know, coming into a studio session, like how to make things set up correctly, looking at a run sheet, all those kind of things are like a little more glossed over.
Yeah. I mean, and even like I've had scenarios where, you know, at the last studio that I was, you know, like the head engineer, and I just took care of the place as far as like the gear and everything goes. Like there'd be outside people that would come in and ask questions. Like I understand like everybody's setup is different, but there's, you know, it's real simple in most of the studios in Atlanta. So it's like, why do you need me? Like, you know, it's like, oh, the input's one. There you go. And every studio's got the same monitor control with the same simple setup. You know, it's just, you know, it's.
And patch bays are pretty much the same. And most of them are labeled pretty obviously.
And most of the time, there's not even a patch bay.
Yeah. It's just like you plug it into this and it's into channel 1. Because you're most of the time just running a vocal.
Yeah. That's absolutely true.
But so you went to SAE, and then you decide how did you get into more of the tracking side, because that's where a lot of your emphasis is right now. I finished up school, and I had a teacher. He was I was real close with him, and he was working for a producer that goes by Willpower. You know, he's done stuff for Yellow Wolf mainly, and you know, just a slew of different artists, and he recommended me out of my whole class to be like, yo, this is the guy to go with. I was just like, you know, it wasn't really like an internship, but it was like definitely something that I was just like thrown into, you know, and it was just from there, just like reps at that point, and just doing it every single day for 8 to 12 hours a day, just over and over and over again, and learning and messing up and just, you know, continuing to do it, you know. Very sick. Yeah. I feel like the reps is, people can learn all day, but getting the reps in is like, at some point you just got to jump in and like, you know, get the reps over and over again. That's the fastest way to learn. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
So what rooms were you working in? Let's kind of, to give people some context about like more of like what you do now. So now we're kind of caught up. More of what you do now. What rooms have you been working with and or managing or anything like that? And then I just want to give you a second to flex. So like, what are some cool stuff that you've worked on and like things like that? Yeah.
I mean, as far as like my main big things that have come out, it's been from Back in Blood, from Pooh Shiesty and Lil Durk, to Every Chance I Get with Lil Durk and Baby, from Khaled. There's Ayo and Teo, a Katy Perry placement, tons of Durk and Von stuff, basically that whole camp, and then
Very
also
cool.
other artists from, like L.A. Reid's last iteration, his last label that he did, Hitco, that whole label, I worked with that, and that's a very close thing. And topic we can get to.
Sure.
But yeah, it's been fun, man. Like it's crazy because all my accolades came from a run in 2020 during COVID. That's like
wild.
All of 2020 basically I worked with them, and everything came from that one time period.
People just locked in.
Yeah, I mean,
Is
it's
that what it
crazy.
was?
Yeah, definitely, because I think the studio that I was at, when COVID started, we kind of like closed up at night and everything. And then I think that lasted for a week. And then we were just, we're open. We don't care. Like, we'll clean and everything. Like, we didn't enforce masks. So that was like another thing that was kind of interesting to me because I was like, let's see what happens,
Yeah.
And like literally, I think all of 2022 people got sick.
Nice.
Yeah. And this is people coming in from Chicago,
lucky,
Miami, Memphis, LA. Like, people are close up. You got people in a room, 15, 20 people in a standard room. That's a lot of people. Like, nobody's masking, everybody's passing blunts, it's just like, but nobody got sick. So I'm like, this is insane.
You guys got crazy lucky with that. That's awesome though.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, okay, Josh, did you have a question?
No.
Okay, cool.
No, I'm just listening.
Yeah. So, okay. So what rooms have you been able to work out of? And I will say, what is the main difference, especially like you being a tracking engineer, going in between all of these rooms, like that you generally see?
I mean, most of the time in Atlanta, like a lot of the studios are done by the same person. Like, they were built out and designed. So a lot of them are very consistent. You know what I'm saying? As far as like, it even comes down to the gear, it's standard usually. Well, nowadays it's, like the CLA 10s. If NS10s aren't there, maybe like Osberger's is the playback in the walls. So it's pretty consistent room to room in the city. But, you have your bigger studios and then your, smaller project type studios that would have like a pair of like Genelecs or maybe some JBLs or Atoms or something. But, for the most part, every room's got a U87 and a 1073 and either a CL1B or a distressor or LA2A. So all the vocal chain, it's real consistent in the city, especially with, the studios I go to for the most part.
Yeah. Whenever I moved here, I was like checking into different studios and like, it very much feels like if you want to be a commercial space in Atlanta, like it's just kind of expected that you have a U87 and a 1073. Like it's all basically the same. There's some really crazy spots here.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, one studio I've been working out a lot of recently is one of my friends, No Credit. He's a producer, he's worked with Wale, artists like that. He actually built it behind his house, and this is around like the Turnerfield area of Atlanta. And bro, it's honestly like the hardest hitting room I've ever heard in the city, because he custom made his playbacks with this crazy horn that's like looks all like super high end audiophile, but the subs, it's like, I think he's got 4 18s, and it's a pretty big room, but bro, it's crazy, and it doesn't give out either. It's just like we've pushed that thing and it won't give, but it's like the hardest hitting room. It's insane. Yeah, but it's nice though. It's cool. Yeah, and it sounds amazing too. Yeah. And the translation, is real good. So
that's wild that the translation is actually that 1-to-1 as well, especially with that much power behind it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Josh just moved to Atlanta within the last couple years.
Nice.
Last year.
Last year, yeah. So he's still kind of getting used to the landscape of everything. Yeah, there's a lot in the area.
There's a lot.
I mean, For me, it's like I've been in like more of like the rap game, R&B. So I know the two are completely separate. You know what I'm saying? Because like with me, it's just I see all these artists, but like I know there's rock stuff and other stuff that's going on. But I know those studios are different and how they operate. And,
sure.
I know like Glow in the Dark is probably like the first one that always comes to mind. If it's like stuff around here, like that's the first one.
It's not there anymore, unfortunately.
Oh wow! See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's not there anymore. Yeah, wow. He sold. So he had the first location, and then he moved to the one on Cheshire Bridge.
Oh, okay.
And the big one, and then he sold. I think he got bought out of that one because they like rebuilt that whole Cheshire Bridge area.
Right.
It's still really weird.
Yeah,
it's a really weird area. I live right down the road.
Yeah. So he was so he was there, and then but I think he moved back to the first area for a little bit, but he does a lot of work. He just kind of floats and does a lot of Goldman does a lot of floater work now, from what I remember somebody telling me.
Yeah.
But no, and it feels like there's a lot in Atlanta that's like big that nobody even realizes that's going on. Like I feel like there was a big boom in the last couple of years of like the EAV area.
Yeah,
like really popping off. Yeah. And then even like in like the South Atlanta scene, has a whole scene that's like pretty cool. So what would you say is like for you when you're going into a session is like your mental checklist of like, oh, I'm prepping for a session and I'm prepping for like these people to come in. Are you generally on a retainer in these scenarios, working with the same people, or are you working with like the studio itself and getting in just clients that are feeding you people?
Right. I mean, if I'm in like a situation where I'm in a studio, it would be kind of a mixture of both.
Okay.
Because like I would just take whoever they have, and then I have people that I can bring in. Or I just move around with a group of people I've always worked with, and we do various things, always doing like songwriting sessions and, various things like that. But I mean, if we're talking about like a checklist, it honestly varies from person to person, because mentally I'm like, all right, if I'm working with, like I'll take Dirk, for example, it's like with sessions like him, it's real low key. He doesn't like a lot of people in the room, his very keen to his workflow and how he is. He's insanely fast, and he can push out a couple of songs in under an hour if he's really in that mindset for the night. But if it was somebody like King Von, for example, those were very chaotic sessions, and I have an ability to very displace myself in the room to focus only what I'm doing. Like I can drown out everybody that's in the room because it's happened a lot. Especially in those type of sessions.
I was gonna say, I feel like especially with these King Von sessions or in like some of those type guys that are the more like what people think of when they think of hip hop sessions.
Yeah, I mean, there's like. And the crazy thing is I honestly ignore everything too. Like I'm oblivious to it all. Like I'm just locked into the screen and just like whatever we're doing.
Just
so like
blinders on, baby.
Yeah. I mean, like sometimes I'll like, it's crazy sometimes like how like there could be something insane going on elsewhere in the studio and I hear about it later and I'm like, oh, what? It's like,
yeah.
But it's whatever, man. Like, some people approached me after I started doing those sessions and they were like, do you know who you're working with? I'm like, what do you mean? And then they like gave me the spiel, the whole Chicago. They ran down all about that. And I was like, okay. He doesn't seem like he's that type of person. So whatever. Like, honestly, he was cool as fuck, he was a real nice, quiet guy, which, those are the ones you got to look after. But but he was awesome. Like he was never like, he was always nice to me, which for sure, because, I just was able to keep up with him and I could, artists appreciate that. And like when there's not a lot of conversation that's going on during a tracking session, that's the best, like an artist having to tell, do this or, hey, can you like, an engineer being slow when artist is like, hey, take this bar, move it here or there, just various things like that. Like you have to be like insanely fast with that stuff.
What do you find that artists appreciate the most from a tracking engineer?
Honestly, just in Atlanta, it's all about speed. Like, because, you know, there's a lot of artists have learned about how certain people record, you know, and they will try to adapt that and use it as their own and stuff. And, you know, everybody's different. But, you know, like with Dirk, for example, like he'll do something, he'll say his bar, and then he'll keep doing it on time until he gets it right. And he'll be like, "I'll take the last one," or take the one before the last one. So when he says that, as it's still recording, I stop it. It's playing again. I cut it and fly it over real quick, and we just keep going. You know, there's not there's not more than 3 seconds, or not even that passes in between takes. Like, it's just, you know, consistent.
Yeah,
boom,
it's
boom,
constant.
boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
That's wild.
Honestly, I have to like give credit to a songwriter, London J in Atlanta. Like, he's the one that introduced me to like not even that method, but just being fast and like being able to go.
Showing you what speed actually looks like.
Yeah, like, because I never experienced that, and I was like, okay, cool. And then once I got it, you know, I'll hear people in sessions like, I ain't never heard a keyboard sound like that in a session with the tracking engineer. You know, just people will make comments like that, like, "Oh, I've never seen somebody so fast," and how you work, and you know, it's just stuff like that.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, that's really sick. What is if you had to give a tip to, like, you know, people that are going into tracking, what would you say would be let's say, other than if you have a specific shortcut, but other than general learn your shortcuts, everybody should learn their shortcuts.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like, what would you say is like a really good piece of advice to give to people that are kind of wanting to get into being more tracking engineers or owning their own like spot?
Right. I mean, for one, learn your shortcuts. The less you use your mouse, the better, especially when it comes to tracking. Like, I'll use my mouse just to like drag stuff down, but other than that, I'm not like going to like a menu or like trying to look for things. It's all shortcuts and editing and stuff, you know. But as far as, you know, actual tips, like, it's crucial. I mean, especially in my world, like, and I would say in any genre this should be crucial, especially with tracking vocals. Like, you want those vocals and the song to sound almost release ready, you know, because I know some people like to record completely dry, you know, and that's cool. Everybody has different preferences, but for me, it's like, if it sounds like a record when they're tracking it, it'll make their performance better, and, you know, so on. Like, that's super, super crucial. And like, in today's world with the computers and how powerful they are now, you can do that. You know, you can have your full plug-in chains on or whatever you want to do, and you'll still be able to get through the record and everything.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Do you have different artists giving you like their own like Pro Tools template that they would like you to work out of?
It varies sometimes, you know, like, you know, that is something. If it's a first time session with a new artist, like, I'll always ask, like, "Hey, do you have a template?" If they say yeah, you know, I'll get it and we'll go from there. If they don't, I'll just use mine and we'll just go from there, you know. But, you know, there's a lot of people that have my template and use it a lot, you know, because I don't care. Like, I've never been like, I would never like delete it off of studio computers, you know, because it's like, all right, it's my template. I know how to use it. There are certain things that people ask, like, "Yo, what's this? What's that?"
Yeah.
But for sonically, like, you can have it, but it's going to be different, you know, because my ears are different than yours. So
yeah.
But I've never been that type of like, "Oh, you can't have my template," you know. It's just like,
well, in that case, next question: what's your template?
I mean, honestly, like, for standard vocal tracking, like, if you want to know like routing and stuff like that, and what I've like used in my processing, or do you want to like go through my
I would
vocal
say
chain?
let's do vocal chain first, and then I know Josh is like Josh likes routing.
I'm more interested in the routing.
I'm more interested,
like,
but
the
I
vocal
think,
chain, it's like,
it's whatever.
that's pretty standard,
vocal chain
like,
is pretty
it's
standard.
EQ, it's compression.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, routing wise, like, depending on if I'm working with like a 2-track or a full track out session, you know, sometimes rarity will happen. But if it's just like a normal day, it's going to be a 2-track. You know, I'll route that to its own bus, like an all music thing. And sometimes I'll treat it depending on what needs to be done. If the mix is, you know, in the right place on the beat. And then for vocals, you know, I'll have like my lead go into one. I'll have, you know, I separate everything. Like, leads go to one, backgrounds go to another, ad-libs on their own. Those get summed to an all vocal, and then I'll also, depending on how dense the song is, like I'll either have 1 or 2 parallel vocal compressions going on, like those sends, but that's pretty much it. And if it's like a full blown out tracked out song and everything, like I have like a rear bus technique I use, so just everything but drums, and I think it's drums and bass get sent to that, so it just meshes everything more and stuff, just glues it.
Lets you pull like the drums more on, especially because in hip hop it's got to be more punchy, so it lets you put all the punchy stuff towards the front and kind of control all the back stuff.
Right. Yeah.
On your rear bus, are you just using like FET style compression for that, or like
just 76, just a Blueface 76? Yeah.
I know that my friend Lee does that, or at least he used to, and like it always seemed super cool.
You talking about Lee Rouse?
Yeah,
Lee. Yeah,
the homie.
Yeah. I've known Lee for quite some time now. I think I met him when he was living in Monroe still, which that's where I used to live. So I went over to the studio that was there, and that's how we met and stuff. Yeah, but Lee's cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah, he's dope.
Yeah, Josh has been doing some production and writing with some artists with Lee.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, that's part of the reason he's down there, is to do some of that work. So it's been pretty cool. Let's go for those that are more basic vocal chain. Just run it real quick.
So I would just honestly, I start with my correction EQ, like my correction EQ, and then I'll go into like an R comp, do a little compression there. From there, I'll probably go into like a SSL channel strip and just do a little additive EQ if I want to, maybe more subtraction depending on what it is. And then I'll run it through like a 76, sometimes a Purple Audio 76, sometimes if it's after the fact, not tracking, I'll switch it to an 1176, like a UAD one.
Yeah.
And then, it varies. It's song to song. It's different.
Sure.
I'll move different things around, but, it's your standard, like, saturation. If I want to do it, I'll just do it on like an all vocal, but,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been really digging the Waves Factory Spectre. Have you messed with that?
No, I haven't yet.
It's pretty sick.
Oh yeah, you should.
Oh,
it's
nice.
really
Nice.
sick. It's like
Especially for
additive
vocals.
saturation.
Oh, that's dope.
So it's like if you need to like boost frequencies in the box, it's like probably the most transparent way that we have at the moment. It's pretty cool.
Nice. That's dope.
It also does this really cool thing I noticed. I don't know if you told me about this, Josh, but somebody was telling me that it's really cool on if you get a vocal from somebody that's using like a really cheap mic or a chain, it's a really good way to basically just drop the EQ on the top end. That top end on those cheap mics are just like awful sometimes. And bring it back up with Spectre using that, and it like cleans it up and makes it less harsh. It's a really good way to fix like cheaper mics. It makes it sound like a lot better.
Yeah.
I feel like you would really get a lot out of that plugin. I would.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only Waves Factory plugin I've used is probably Track Spacer, because that's another good thing to use if you're just working with a 2-track during a tracking session. You need to make that space. That's
I've never used that one before. I see a lot of people talking about it. Do you like
it's dope. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, especially for, like I said, if you're dealing with just a 2-track and recording vocals, you can carve that space real quick to fit the vocal line.
That's really sick. I'm gonna have to try that out.
Yeah.
Especially, I bet it also works really well just like on a bus situation. Like if you just an extra layer of like making sure that vocal will sit right. Especially, I bet it would also work in like heavier music as well, because there's just so many frequencies happening with like heavier music. I feel like, and sometimes I've found mixing like a heavier song, getting the vocal to sit in the right space can be a little bit tricky. Just because it's just guitars are just all of the frequencies at one time.
I mean, honestly, like that's one thing. And it's back when I was like playing heavy music and stuff, like becoming an engineer kind of ruined that. I mean, it didn't ruin it, but it's just like I listen differently now, and it's just like stuff like early like Devil Wears Prada, like Texas is South. It's just like But, you know, back when I first listened to it, I said, ooh, this is badass. But now I'm like, ooh, make it stop. Or like that first Bring Me the Horizon EP, it's just like, man. Like, but now,
I wish
like,
this could be better.
I feel like in that world, like, production has gotten, like, well, sonically, it's just like, all right, we're having more separation in production. It's not like a wall of sound, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's been, like, my biggest thing. Like, and it's happened, like, you know, I've been in and out of like heavier music, you know, throughout my career and stuff, just listening to it. But like recently, obviously, Sleep Token, that's the bar now, in my opinion, for that kind of music. Sonically, that's the bar.
Yeah, me and you had a whole conversation on Instagram about that, about how like it's just,
oh my god, bro.
just the genre blending of the writing, but also the sonics are some of the coolest sounding mixes I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
especially blending like the clarity of the vocal and like how much production is in there, but then it also, you don't feel like you're ever missing the guitars or the drums. And that's like such a hard balance to
I mean, especially with that group, obviously, you know, the vocal is like the key factor, and obviously that is a production and mixing, you know, that's what they were going for, obviously, because it's who he is, and that voice is that voice, you know, and that's important, you know.
It's also crazy because his voice is kind of low, and I've also personally found it really hard to mix like those kind of more baritone voices in heavy music because they just mesh directly in with every other thing that you have going on in the mid-range. So having that like separation to me is pretty wild.
And honestly, it could have just been something that like they're like, okay, for this to work, everything else we're just gonna have to cut here for that part of his voice can just shine. You know what I'm saying? Like, that could also be why they tune
so low.
That too,
because
just to compliment him,
shifts that whole frequency spectrum down from where you would normally think of, you know, the guitars sitting. It just sits down by like 100 or 200 hertz.
Yeah, and honestly, like with that, like I've sent, you know, their stuff to so many different people in my circle, you know, because they've always heard that from me because they know I listen to so much different stuff, you know. And most of the time, like, I mean, they're not really into like screaming and screamo type stuff, but you know, with this, I'm like, yo, listen to me. Like, this group has the potential to do something so big, you know, to break past, you know, because we've had discussions like that. They're like, yo, but that music is like, the fan bases are like what they are. They have great tours and everything, but they're just like, oh, but they just don't chart. I'm just like, well, yo, that's not the goal in that world. You know what I'm saying? But I'm
like the goal is to like tour really, really well.
Like, and have like huge turnouts.
I don't know. It's very weird. Like whenever you're like coming up in heavy music, you actually never think about charting. Ever. You know, it's like
never do.
Like you see like a lot of bands will like chart on like Heat Seekers or whatever, and it's like that, like in the grand scheme of things, like that really means nothing. So like still it's very much like, oh yeah, I mean, like that's cool. But then whenever like you get into like hip hop and pop, like all of a sudden that's a conversation and you're like, oh yeah, I guess like people actually like do care about charting.
I mean, I think like, you know, it's happened, but it's just not in the 2000s, you know, like or maybe like 2010s. Like,
it's a very recent conversation.
Yeah, it definitely is. But I think especially with Sleep Token, they have the opportunity to be like, hey, we're this group, we're gonna be, you know what I'm saying? I feel like they have that potential, and you know, there's just something that just needs to reach across to other people, you know, because obviously we know about them, everybody, you know, it is what it is, but other people that aren't hip, that's what's crazy. Like other people that aren't, you know, into this music world, like, you know, if they were to just somehow break that connection and cross over, I think a lot of people would probably honestly like them because they have so much to offer, you know?
For sure.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I feel like Sleep Token in a lot of ways like reminds me of like whenever Code Orange really started to pop off. And that's like all you heard about was Code Orange and how crazy it is. And they were on like WWE or something like that. And so I'm excited to see where they go.
I mean, for me, I think when they announced their headliner over here, with it being their first and how fast it sold out, I was just like, you know, I don't even know like the you know, capacity venues that they're playing at, you know, if they're medium size or whatnot, but the fact that they did that with not doing that over here before, it's insane to me.
It's insane.
Like, it seems like they're playing theaters.
Okay, so like mid
2000s.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's like the mid or upper end of, you know, the heavy world.
Yeah.
Are they coming to Pittsburgh? Let's see. Sleep Token tour.
Yeah, you know the layout of. So Josh is originally from Pittsburgh.
There's only like 3 venues that are still alive. Dude, for real, it's so sad. They all keep closing. They opened up a really nice one.
Oh, nice.
It's like a miniature Stage AE. I don't know if either of you guys know about that, but I'm pretty sure that already closed too.
Yeah, I think they're playing like either bigger clubs or like smaller theaters is like
nice.
What it looks like, which is pretty sick.
Yeah.
It very much seems like them, and they're doing the route of Spirit Box that they had basically a couple years ago, which is like they hit really hard. Mm-hmm. Everyone's picking them up. They had a really good record release, and now they're about to do a really solid tour.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know. That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Have you been able to get into tracking some doing a mix of genres?
Recently I just went out and cut vocals with my friend Cody Gray. It was for his group Drown It Out. So I cut vocals on that for him and everything.
Nice.
But I definitely want to get into it, but I know that the world's different, and roles are kind of different than they are, in the rap game and everything.
Sure.
Because I feel like producers wear all the hats, and with this, what I'm used to is just like it's very separate roles, for the most part. Yeah.
Oh god, I lost my question. Oh god, happened to me.
Yeah.
No, okay, I remember what I was going to say. I feel like, and you may have noticed this, but the rap, I think, in general is changing a lot.
Yeah.
You starting to see rap or hip hop adopt a lot of other genres. It's very cool, especially I think rock and like grunge. You're starting to see those kind of things creep into. I mean, especially with like the rise of like hyper pop stuff. That's starting to also kind of bleed into hip hop in general. I think that a good example I think is that Doja album that Josh really likes, Planet Her.
Yeah, that's a great album. Yeah,
that's a fantastic album.
It's insane. Yeah,
there's a lot of hyper pop-ish elements.
Yeah,
throughout that entire record.
Yeah, and then even with like Uzi's new album, The Pink Tape, like this man's got a Chop Suey cover on there. I'm not gonna get fully into it, but it's just like okay. And then the track after that's the one with Bring Me the Horizon, which but Uzi has always been you could tell he was the kid growing up that was into that kind of music already. Same with, like,
I remember
seeing and stuff. Yeah,
it was like right whenever Love Is Rage 2 dropped.
Yeah,
it was like right whenever all my friends went to college. And I remember seeing videos of him on Twitter at like black metal shows and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool,
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely artists like that, that I've met a lot of people throughout my career, and I've put a lot of people, and that's something that I pride myself on, is like introducing people to different things, because a lot of people just listen to one thing, and then I'm just like, hey, well, check this out, and they're like, whoa, what is this, It's just like, even when it comes to like interns that I've had, I'm like, look, you need to learn everything. You know what I'm saying? I was like, so we're going to listen to this, this, and this, and this. Just, casual conversations and stuff.
Especially as a tracking engineer, I feel like you never know what you're going to get thrown, what's going to get thrown at you. Like you might have a good idea, but like, I mean, I've done some tracking stuff, and sometimes you don't know what's going to come through the door. You just have have a name on a sheet.
Yeah.
And like, it comes in, and it could be, your normal run-of-the-mill hip-hop stuff. It could also be, a folk thing, and you just don't know.
Yeah.
But having a good breadth of knowledge. Gene Dawson was the other artist I was thinking of that like really does the cool hip-hop. I don't know if you know Gene Dawson at all.
I don't think so, no.
It's very cool. It's like a cool like grunge. If you took like Nirvana 90s grunge and you put it on like hip-hop trap beats.
But then he's also doing other stuff too. Like the song that has Earl Sweatshirt on it, which is like the first thing Earl's dropped in like forever. It literally sounds like a Disney soundtrack. It is
Wow.
Dude, it's incredible.
James,
So good.
James crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really great. I love him.
Yeah, I only got recently in the last, like, I think it was the end of last year, got turned on to Gene Dawson. Yeah, definitely you should listen to it if you aren't. It's really, really good.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
It's one of those,
Yeah.
was one of those wild picks. One of those very left field picks.
Hey, I'm always down for that.
Yeah. So which of your how was it winning a Grammy?
Oh man, I mean, that's something that, you know, like when I got into it, I was like, all right, that's a goal. I mean, obviously that's a goal for anybody, but just when it happened, I was just like, whoa. Like the nomination happened, that was one thing, but with the win, I was just like, this is a crazy feeling, you know?
Which one was that one for?
That was for Best Rap Album for Nas. Yeah, I did the song that Dirk was on. Yeah, I just have to, you know, get the trophy and everything. There's ordering periods and everything. And there's, you know, I had to get some paperwork stuff settled and get the credit because that's all they really need. You know, that's the stuff with Dirk. It's like getting credit for that. It's like hit or miss, you know. But you know, the ones that matter, you know, it's on paper.
If you're gunning for it, I know, especially with stuff like that where it's like, you got to get the credit. Will get put where credit's due. But that's one of those things, especially when you get into it. It's like, we all know that it's like the Grammys don't really matter to us, but also it's one of those things that like also every producer and engineer wants to have.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's just like, it's a hallmark. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Whether the opinion or not on the Grammys, that's always just been something that's always been around. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether you like it or not.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like, a goal of everybody.
Yeah. It's the same way with anybody that's in Broadway or with the Tonys or actors with Oscars. It's the same thing. It's just for music people, you know?
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
No, it's super cool that you got to hit that mark kind of in the middle of your career.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Because I also feel like you're still going and you're still doing more stuff and bigger stuff and like, you know, you're continuing to grow and like you got to hit that not even at your peak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, like that was like that year was like the 10 year, you know, and a lot of people say like it really takes off like on the 10th year. Like, you know, there was a mix engineer that I interned for when I got out of school, Miles Walker. You know, he worked with Stargate, so a bunch of Rihanna and stuff like that. He does a bunch of like big EDM records that he's mixed, K-pop, stuff like that. But when I asked him, I said, so yo, when did it really take off? And he said about 10 years in. I said, okay, I'm gonna remember that. And lo and behold, it fucking happened, you know?
That's great. And it like really took off 10 years.
Yeah, I was just like, whoa, okay. So like we're here now.
0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah, which that's just how it goes, I guess. I mean,
I guess
it makes sense in the industry and everything.
Yeah, especially then. I feel like because I remember that wasn't that long ago, and I feel like the industry has really heavily shifted into rap winning like a bunch more Grammys, which has opened the opportunity up to everybody like spreading the love a lot more, which is really
I mean,
cool.
at the end of the day, right now, pop music is trap. It's drill. Because if we talk technically, like pop music is popular music. It's not like when people think about pop, they're like, oh, the 90s, Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, you know, that was pop back then. But if you really think about it, it's like, oh, this is 90s dance music. Oh, this is like 80s dance music in current form, you know. So right now, hip hop is pop music.
Yeah, Drake has more monthly listeners than Adele.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
That's crazy.
Just so insane. Dude, I was going through it. I'm pretty sure Future does also, which is even cooler.
I mean, like, she kind of did that to herself. That last album wasn't anything special. So
that's fair. That's fair. It was forgettable for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. But are you, so as far as beats that you're seeing come across your table, like, are you seeing anything interesting happening with beats? Because I feel like for a while there, it was like kind of the same thing coming across everybody's table for a while, and everybody was making kind of the same thing.
Right.
Are you seeing what trend are you seeing? Or are you seeing any kind of, you know, new types of productions come across?
I mean, I think recently it's more so people are just going backwards instead of forwards, if that makes sense. Like, there's a lot of like 80s inspired type things, you know, like the Weekend vibe, like what he's on right now, like a lot of that. You know, just your standard, just like drill music, you know, just like that's always going to stay the same. I mean, that's going to be hard to evolve, and I think honestly in the rap game, that's the issue right now. Like for me, like it's all just, it's very meshing together right now, as far as we're talking about production and how beats sound and what's used and everything. Yeah. But, you know, I've also heard, you know, some people are going back to old ways, you know what I'm saying? Like I've heard Southside is making beats by himself again, you know, it's just, and he's going back to the old school 808 Mafia, like Lex Luger sounds, you know, like the horns, and like they're going backwards, you know, because that's what really set them off. And now they kept going. They're like, all right, let's reset a little bit, and let's, you know, it's just definitely it's in an interesting place right now for sure. If we're talking about just like hip hop and what's going on, it's very stagnant right now.
And that's what I've seen is like I can probably guess what beat is going to be on when I turn on a song, which is like
for sure
mostly 808, maybe a piano, and maybe some sort of like floaty synth.
Yeah.
And then
or a flute or something.
Or flute, yeah. Or a sax.
And then gross beat hi-hats through the whole song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Josh.
The one outlier is definitely what are they called? Is it Beach House? The dudes that did Kendrick and Keem.
I'm not sure, honestly.
Let's see.
It could have been Beach House, I think, because I remember seeing stuff.
It's
about
Beach
that.
something.
Yeah.
I don't think it's actually Beach House.
Okay.
No, it's not Beach House. It's Beach something though. And they did all of the last Kendrick album, and well, at least the majority of it. Same with the last Baby Keem album.
Yeah.
And the other night I was just making beats for fun, and I put on Mr. Morale, and I was just like, kind of blown away. And then I literally turned off my computer because I was like, there's just no shot. Like, I'm not going to make anything of value after listening to this. Like, the production is just so much cleaner than anything else out there. And it's just crazy to hear. And it's like super cool seeing that like people are still trying to do like different stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Kendrick has always been his own thing, and also with Keem, you know, it's just like it's in their blood, their family, so it's like just another evolution, because Kendrick can, you know, stop rapping, and then Keem's just going to take the mantle and just keep going. In my opinion, and I think Keem is definitely going to surpass him because he's just so versatile, and I really like
Keem.
He's incredible. Yeah, his newest album was insane.
Oh, they're called Beach Noise.
Oh, okay,
Beach Noise.
Yeah, it's like a trio in California.
Yeah, and I know Keem produces a lot of the stuff himself too, because he's produced stuff for Kendrick and stuff.
Yeah. That's how he kind of started getting his producing stuff for Ken. Yeah. So I personally really like Keem a lot because Kendrick is great, but he also can get really heady for my taste.
Yeah.
And Keem is a lot more easily palatable for me as you know, a general listener. So I'm really intrigued into you getting into more, like, obviously you probably just do mixing anyway, but you getting into more and trying to, like, you're a great tracking engineer, and that is what you're
what happened?
Drew, we can't hear you.
Sorry.
Okay, there we go.
Sorry. You're doing tracking. That's the breadwinner right now.
Yeah.
But like branching into other aspects, like what is that looking like for you?
I mean, you know, I've thought about, you know, opening my own space. You know, that's definitely something I'm interested in, and kind of like, you know, making it something hybrid, because, you know, I live out in the Covington area, and there's, you know, out this way, there's a lot of like movie and TV production happening, and there's a huge soundstage out here that, you know, Marvel uses, Star Wars, you know, just a lot of big production stuff is going on. but I know there's not really places like directly close to them that could service them as far as like dialogue and things like that, because they have to go into the city to do that. Yeah, ADR stuff. So it's like, well, if I'm out here, they don't have to go very far. Just make it more convenient. And then, you know, I've always been in a film anyway growing up. That's always, you know, been just as important as music, you know. So that's definitely something I've always wanted to get into anyway. So it's like, you know, a hybrid film / music kind of space, you know. And then you know, I want to start a label. You know, that's something I've definitely thought about, you know, just to have something of my taste, just something that's all over the place, honestly.
For sure.
Yeah.
I feel like you are very interested into, you're hungry for new music constantly, because like that's a lot of what we talk about is like newer stuff. And it's because I feel like you would do a lot for artists that, you know, wouldn't get that otherwise.
Yeah.
You would be able to. I think like you would find cool artists that would deserve a cool platform.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because I think for me it's about authenticity, especially in music today. It's very hard, but I think there's certain things, you know, with the world and just, you know, I don't know. I think people are craving that more nowadays. You know what I'm saying? And that's like true authentic music. Like I saw a post a couple days ago from another engineer in Atlanta. He's an older guy, but he was I think it could have been a video of Sailing from Christopher Cross, I think. I think that's who does that song. But he was talking about how back then, like, you know, labels would be all over that. In today's world, he wouldn't have a shot, you know, being like 35 plus, music like that. Labels are like, no, we don't want you. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, we need to get back to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I think is really missing, because anybody, like, and I'm not trying to be a gatekeeper of some sort, but like, if you look at recent times, it's just like everybody just chases an algorithm, and that's all that matters. And there's just like the entry level is great. People can put stuff out, but it's like, we got to tone it back. Like, I'm talking way back.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this not too long ago about how like between like Spotify and like TikTok, it's like really kind of like taking things to a new low, like from an artistic perspective, you know, like you know, like I like in a perfect world, I would just write songs all day. Like that's it. I would just do that. I would be a songwriter. But it's like the thought of like just sitting down and being like, okay, well, like this has to do really well on TikTok. We should rip off another nursery rhyme. Like, that just doesn't sound like a great time, you know? So like I've been trying to find that, you know, like more authentic writers that have something different to say than what everybody else is saying. And I've been listening to Noah Kahan a lot. He's like a folk kind of artist, and he's fantastic. Nice. He's blowing up right now. And then I really like this artist named Medium Build, who just signed to Island Records a few days back too, which is really, really sick. Okay. And I don't know, it's just really cool, like seeing people care about that. There's like my girlfriend found this artist named what's her name? Kane? Ethel Kane. And like she's insane. She released like this whole concept album, and it goes from like pretty like indie music to like towards the end of the album there's like a whole black metal song. Wow. And like she's huge on Spotify, you know, and it's like, so it's like there's all these like while everyone's like fighting for like attention on like TikTok and stuff like that, there's still like a lot of artists who only care about releasing like really cool authentic art, and it seems like it's still connecting and like it's very viable. And so like that's kind of like my goal right now is like I need to find those people and work with them, because that would be extremely fulfilling, you know. So
yeah, I mean,
it's exciting.
Honestly, like there's people out there. It's just there's standards that these labels have created that just don't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? It's just like going back to like the Christopher Cross thing. It's like you have to have a look, and you have to be a certain age, which is crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, what if it's like some 50-year-old woman that's got this most insane voice, but they're just like, no, you're too old.
You
know what I'm saying? It's just like, that's sad, bro.
Yeah, the positives and negatives of I think the entry point of like a TikTok and a Spotify is that everybody has the ability to do cool stuff. Like if you're good, like you can do it. But the other issue is that there's so much that sifting through it all is just a nightmare. I heard somebody talking about how the next big move in the music industry and in the creator industry in general is going to be curators.
Wow.
People that can sift through all of the stuff and find the gems are going to be like the next big thing, like big content, type of person.
I mean, I could see that. I could see that being a thing.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, it's kind of that. In when they said that, I was like, that's just a label.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's just an A&R.
Yeah. I mean, you're right.
Yeah, so like it's cool that that's a thing, but like that already kind of exists in the world. Right. So then it comes down to, so how do you do that differently? And how you do it differently is do what you're talking about, like have a label that really specializes in that stuff and like finding those diamonds and like blowing them up.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So let's move into like some more nerdier production things. I have like a couple random questions to ask you. So
all right, cool.
Take as much time as you need. Yeah, but what is either a plugin or some sort of production trick or some sort of tracking or mixing trick that you've been really stoked on recently?
I mean, honestly, like it's been like real like consistent as far as my workflow goes, just because I'm like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you can make improvements and stuff, but it's like once you get that system, it's you're just turning out stuff so fast. It's just like, it's changed over time. Like certain plugins will leave, some will be added. You know what I'm saying? But honestly, like I think it's just like when it comes to tracking workflow, it's just I've always worked as I'm tracking, like getting the song somewhere sonically, you know what I'm saying? That's like, I'm talking vocal lining stacks, I'll RX during tracking, I'll audio suite stuff, and it's just like, it's pretty crazy. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. So I would actually love to hear more on like what you're doing while you're doing that. So as you're tracking, you're grabbing the stacks, vocal lining and RXing them as they're still tracking.
Yeah, because it's like, and if anything, it's just like, if I have to like stop, it's like just real quick, and it's something they wouldn't even notice, if I have to like actually stop it to process it. If it were to like stop or I didn't want it to mess up, you know what I'm saying? Like I'll have, what I use open to the right of the screen and, just go to it. It's always there. Click what I need to click, and when it comes to RX, I'm not doing like a full blown like spatial repair. It's just, like mouth declick, deplosive, just quick things just to clean the vocal up and everything. So it's, it's just nice. Because you already get it done and everything. And also it's like another thing I do as well, once it's already recorded and I start getting into like vocal lining and doing RX, it's always the playlist in Pro Tools is duplicated just in case you do need to go back to the original, just because vocal line can get a little weird sometimes if you don't have everything marked, highlighted and edited the right way. So that's always another thing, is just having always keep the original, or in my case, like everything that's recorded is saved, no matter what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's just always like playlist every take, no matter what it is. It's just like a muscle memory at this point.
Yeah, Command S.
Yeah, Command S. I mean, bro, it's Command Spacebar, Command S, and then Control, and then backslash to playlist. That's just like the rotation of every take.
Yeah. You are on Pro Tools, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. I know some people especially in the hip hop world, are really leaning into like Logic and Ableton.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like, I know some
like
people
on the tracking side.
Yeah, I mean, it's more so Pro Tools. Like, I know some people are starting to some producers just cutting straight into FL with vocals, depending on the scenario. But, you know, it's just like, I don't knock anybody for using what they use. But when it comes to just audio, it's just like, nobody touches Pro Tools. Just editing and handling it, there's no comparison. Yeah.
We were talking about FL the other day about how, what did you say, Josh? It actually works how you imagine, like, when you're younger, audio engineering works or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said like, you know, whenever you're a kid and you like think about how music is made, that's like how FL actually makes music. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. But it's like when you're watching like an old crime show and they like get a CVTV photo of the bad guy and they're like, enhance.
Right.
That's like how the process of using FL Studio is to me.
And it's I think if people knew, it's like, hey, that new Woe Was Me single, that was produced in FL, guys.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's just like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's funny because I posted that as a clip and Josh got mad hate on TikTok. Josh got mad hate on TikTok.
Wow.
Yeah.
Either hate or love.
You've been doing me dirty with the clips because you also took a clip about the whole Logic on iPad thing that made it sound like I'm a massive like Apple fan. And I was literally having a conversation about how I think Logic on iPad is not only like silly, but it's also just like straight up not worthwhile in the long run for anybody who does this seriously. Right. And he edited it to make it sound like that. I was like, you know what they're doing, dude? They're actually revolutionizing how we make music.
All I did was take the clip, bro.
And then and then some dude comments on like the YouTube Shorts or whatever, and he's like, I could see where he's going with this, but I think he's wrong. And I was like, no, you got to listen to the whole thing. Yeah. All right.
Context matters, people. Context matters.
Well, that's good to know that because I've been wanting to try Logic out on iPad, but like the one thing without even downloading is like, okay, all the FabFilter stuff is on iPad OS, but I'm like, can I use my license though?
No, you can't.
I'm like, why do I have to buy it? I'm like, please fix that. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this, man.
Yeah, that's I watched Aries.
Yeah.
So he did a YouTube video about him just producing a song on iPad. Yeah. For like, it was, I'll send it to you. It's honestly, it's pretty cool. Yeah. He tracked like some guitar just straight through the iPad mic and some vocals and stuff. But in the end, other than just for like a cool video, I don't know how viable it is.
Right. I mean, the only thing I could see for like iPad production being good is if they were to actually just be like, okay, if you want to, you can put Mac OS on here. Because at this point, they all have the same chip, so there's no excuse, y'all. Like, it's the same thing. Just put it on there.
Yeah, because we were talking about it. Josh is a Cubase user, and primarily, and Cubasis has been on iPad for forever.
Wow, yeah.
And it's essentially the same. It's the same thing.
Oh, that's cool.
I think there's a little bit of, I think you don't get like the audio tuning stuff for.
Yeah, you don't get like very audio and stuff. It's also one of those things where it's like, I don't have an iPad, so these things never cross my mind. Like, I've never been the type of dude that looked at an iPad and I was like, I could really use that. Like, it's just like, I have a phone and I have a laptop, so I've always just been like, why would I need an iPad? Yeah. And so I don't know, the whole conversation about like recording music on an iPad, it's just like, it seems harder, it just seems like a massive pain.
I would agree.
I feel like there's a space for it, but it's not where we would live. Any of the three of us would live, you know what I mean? I feel like it would be more complicated than it needs to be. Like you said, I already own the FabFilter stuff. Why I gotta buy it again, man?
Yeah, I'm not doing that, man.
Why I gotta do that? It was already expensive the first time.
Right.
Those plugins ain't cheap.
Yeah, no. I mean, even with like iPad stuff, it's like I have one, but I only use it to read books because it's like the nice size to read a book. I have the big Pro, and I'm reading in landscape, and it feels like it's the size of a book. So it's like that's the only thing I use it for.
Yeah, I use mine to like take notes and like
well,
I do
cool.
office work on
stuff.
I do like office work on mine because I like to get away from the studio to do office work sometimes. So yeah, I do that kind of stuff. But
I'm also like I can't use the last vocal chain that I used through the iPad. Because boy, let me tell you what. So this last tracking session that I had, it was an added piece for me. It was 1073 Tube Tech U87.
Okay.
But I used a Burl B2 going into the interface, and bro, let me tell you, I have never heard something sound so good. And
really?
It's so crazy. It just gives it like just an oomph. You know what I'm saying? Like it's an extra, it's a presence to it. Like. But now I'm like, great, now I have to buy one.
The bomber.
Yeah, the B2, yeah. The A to D. Yeah, but it was real nice, man.
It made that big of a difference. That's crazy.
I feel like it, I feel like it did because like I even like just wanted to hear it and I would like turn my my chain off in Pro Tools just to hear it and I'm like, oh, okay, this is nice. Because
that's crazy.
Even throughout the session, like I barely even did a lot of stuff like processing wise in my chain, to its initial settings. And
I've heard of a bunch of people do like more guitar based music using the B2 for guitars because it just like fattens everything up.
That's true. Yeah.
And like for basses, I feel like, it has definitely like a sound.
It's like
I could not imagine because that junk, once again, that junk ain't cheap, but also, if you're ready to drop, what is it? Like $3,000? Or 2,500,
something like that.
Something like that. Then, it's like it'll make a difference. It's gonna make that 10% difference for you. Then go for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And even like the same room had a Lavery as well, and that's But I wanted to like at the end of the session, I was gonna like just print the bounce through it, but
he had trying to
outs,
clip it.
Yeah, and he had some outs that were out, so I can even like get it routed the right way and everything. But like it's cool. Like that's I think with what in hip hop production and mixing, like I think I see a lot of the bigger guys doing like more of a hybrid thing now. You know what I'm saying? And that's definitely what I'm trying to like get towards. Like I think on my list right now, when I do like a big overhaul, it's gonna be. I'll probably go Lynx. I'll probably get a Lynx for my interface, and then probably like a B2 and like a Neve Orbit, the summing mixer they put out. I'll probably, go with that, or like a SSL Fusion to go on top of that, or like the Rupert Neve, like the Protoco like master bus channel or whatever. So, just something like that. Yeah, that's that's what
have a little like hybrid rack setup for the going in and have a great A to D.
I forget. Sorry, not to cut you off, but I was talking about the Orbit summing mixers. I forget where I found it, but someone actually did a null test on those, so you could hear what the different silk modes are adding.
Actually doing,
and it's like really nice. I think it's like the blue series. It just like fills out the low end in like a really, really nice way. Like there's no like upper mid range distortion or anything like that. Like it just seems really pleasant. Like I would love to get an Orbit. Yeah,
and it's even that unit is just it's just simple. You know what I'm saying? It's just a couple knobs and that's it. Like, and I'm like, good job, y'all. Y'all made something real nice and easy.
They just released a new channel strip called the Newton.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
which seems pretty cool. Like as far as like if you just want something that's like clean. I don't know what kind of preamp they have in it though, because I don't think it's like a 511.
Yeah.
Because they didn't say anything about that.
Right.
And then it's also definitely not the same one that's in the Shelford. So I'm interested to see like what the preamp's like, if it's as colored as the Shelford or if it's more clean.
Yeah, I like the Shelford too. It's good stuff for sure.
What is do you think like the piece of gear that you've used while tracking that's made the biggest change? Would you say it's the Burl as of recent?
I mean, as of recent, yeah, that was real crazy. It was very eye opening, yeah, for sure.
What do you think other than that is another piece of gear that you're like the first time you used it you were like, dang, yeah, that's making like a bigger difference than I expected?
251 for sure. A telefucking 251,
like an actual 251. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh man,
with that,
it's wow, man.
yeah, man. I bet.
And it's crazy because the first one I ever used was it was actually a rental from Blackbird, so it was like a 251 out of John McBride's mic locker.
Oh, so it was like
vintage, and
yeah,
dude, that is so crazy. I love how like vintage 251s are so hard to find because they just disintegrate.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy like how like Blackbird is like one of the few places where they're just like, yeah, so like, this super rare thing, we have multiple.
Yeah, like
and you can rent them.
The stereo 251, like he's got multiples of that. It's just like, bro, like what?
Crazy.
Like
how much is it to rent that thing?
Yeah, I didn't rent it, so I couldn't tell you. But yeah, yeah, he even has like a CL1B and a CL2B, and I was just like, wait, what's a 2B? I'm like, what is that?
Wait, what is a 2B?
I think it could be.
It's double.
I guess it could. I would assume that it's probably a stereo. I would have to look it up. Yeah,
I think it is.
Yeah, that's what I would assume. Just like the 1178 is, the stereo, or 77 is the stereo 76.
Yeah,
yeah, and he's got those as well. But yeah,
I want to know what it is.
Yeah, it's insane.
I want to know what it is now. I want to make sure that is. I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even see that. I don't even see that just as a quick search. It doesn't even come up. That's crazy.
Yeah, you would have to, if you go on the Blackbird like gear rental site, they have like all the gear there.
Yeah, it's because it's called the CL2A.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
It's just it's basically the same thing though. It's still an opto compressor. It's just stereo, and it literally looks like two CL1Bs put together.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's sick. Oh yeah, I see it. Okay, yeah. That's really sick.
It's honestly like a really good value for what you get because it's not that much more than a CL1B, but you get twice the channels. But who knows if they sound the same?
I would honestly get that, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it's the versatility of being able to run two at the same time, or have a matched pair if you're tracking. If you are tracking drums like crush rooms or overheads with that.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Or I think even in like a scenario, if you're talking about like scoring stuff, like having mics set up for strings and running it through that would be just pristine.
Oh yeah,
pristine.
Yeah.
What? Okay, so kind of landing the plane here slowly. What are some, since we talked about a bunch of artists and stuff like that. If you had to give us a couple artists to go check out that you were like, if you're not listening to this, you're missing out. Let's say other than Sleep Token, because I already know how you feel about Sleep Token.
Dude,
what are some artists?
I've been really into Bill Murray lately. I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
Bro, holy shit.
Crank that hog, baby.
Bro, he's been like the consistency he's had of the past 3 singles he's put out, like the About a Cashew and All Gas. Like, bro, it's so good.
Josh, I don't know if you've listened to Bill Murray. It's up your alley of like meme names and stuff.
Yeah, I haven't really. I've heard a few songs.
Yeah, I enjoy it, bro. I don't know what it is. It's just like I just love it.
Yeah.
Because the which album is it? The Goblin Hours. Yeah, that album is pristine, bro.
I love the names of this album, dude.
Yeah, but dude, even like I think it's cool because I send music off to like different engineers that I know because we talk about what different worlds and sonically where they're sitting and stuff. But
yeah,
I want to say I sent All Gas to a friend of mine, and the first thing he said, he was like, "Bro, these drums though." He was like, "The pocket is so crazy."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, "Yo, it's Josh, bro. It's Josh Manuel." It's he's a monster, man.
Shout out,
he is so good.
Shout out Josh Manuel, bro.
For real,
for
bro.
just being a freaking ripper. He's on that Kane Brown tour right now, I think, or something.
Oh man, I have a crazy story about Kane actually. I met him like 2015, I want to say. This was like before, like I've never even, never heard his name, whatever.
Sure.
And it was at the I was at the studio I was managing, and like he was just hanging out kind of like in the kitchen and stuff, and I was just like, oh cool, maybe a rapper, I don't know.
Doesn't look like a country singer.
No. And then later in the night I hear, like, I'm in one of the rooms, I hear somebody playing guitar, so I go out and it's him and he's singing, and I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then that's like this. That's when I was at 12 Music Group, and Polo was actually in the back room. So that's how Kane broke through, because Polo found him, produced some stuff for him and everything. So, and then it just went from there. But the crazy thing about 12 is that everybody that was there when I was there, we've all just left and just done the, you know what I'm saying? Like the craziest shit. Like we have like, you know, like I've done my thing, bro. Like Pierre Bourne was there for like a good solid year, like doing like sessions for Epic and everything, because they had a room there. Like, bro, this man slept there. He never left.
Oh,
but after
he's a
those,
grinder.
Yeah, but after those sessions, he would just like make his own shit. You know what I'm saying? And then like he left for like a few weeks, and then like he never came back. And then Magnolia came out from Cardi, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
That's what he's been working on.
Yeah, and like, bro, even stuff is like, there's a songwriter, this girl named Ink. She's, you know, had a bunch of stuff on Beyonce's latest album. The Box was produced there from Roddy Ricch. Like,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I think 30 Rock, the producers in that, were working there at the time. And
that's crazy.
So there's a lot of like things and people that have been out of that studio that have, you know, it's been crazy.
That's a pretty hot studio then.
Yeah, but it's gone now, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but like back then it was
back
like,
then it was a hot studio. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's nutty.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bill Murray. Give me one more since we both knew Bill Murray.
Let's see.
But for the people that are listening, check out Bill Murray.
Oh yeah.
Josh
definitely.
Manuel is the GOAT.
Yeah.
Shout out Josh.
I don't know, man. It's been like, you know, I've been into a friend of mine. He's a country artist that my friend Cody is actually managing. Chase Baker.
Okay.
I like him a lot. He's cool.
Check him out.
Kind of like a country rock-ish kind of vibe to him.
Very cool.
But you know, it's like, I think the past year, like I've really gotten into country, like older stuff though.
Yeah.
You know, like Brooks and Dunn, like early Toby Keith and
like,
stuff like that, like 90s, you know, and
90s,
2000s. Like,
me and so I have a bunch of friends I'm in South Carolina. So, you know, being here is a lot of like Southern rock and like rock edging country, you know, kind of like gritty down home kind of country stuff. Yeah. And me and a bunch of buddies were talking about just country music in general the other day. And my buddy was like, yeah, the next move is 90s country. Like, bro, that's what's coming down the pipeline. Yeah. And then he's like, and after that, my favorite kind of country, 2000s Keith Urban. And I was like, oh, bro, yeah, you're not wrong about that. That junk's good. I do love a good 2000 Keith Urban song. Yeah.
I mean, I think for me, like, just getting into country music, like, I've always, like, when I was in school, they would talk about it, be like, oh, it's sonically just like perfection, people call it.
It really is.
And listening to those 90s country albums and songs, it's just
that
like,
still hit.
Whoa, yeah,
dude, the wildest thing about country is how the drums sit.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like they never like hit, like they never smack you in the face.
Yeah,
but they're always huge at the same time. Like it's almost like it's closer to like a lot of 80s drums almost. Yeah, where it's just like these huge, like open sounding drums, and like it's just really cool. Yeah, it's just super cool. I like country a lot.
The balance of country is what blows my mind. It also helps that they have like legitimately some of the best players in the world.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, and like they are kind of the amalgamation of like the best players with some of the best producers, some of the best songwriters, and some of the best engineers, just all converging on one song.
Yeah.
And you get just songs like what we're talking about, especially in the 90s when budgets were like major, crazy. Just insane budgets.
Well, I mean, I even think in the country world, that's probably still a thing.
I mean,
it's for sure. Like that's country world is, you know, it's a different ball game.
Yeah.
For sure.
But yeah, no, it's the 90s country stuff is pretty nutty. I'm gonna have to check out. Yeah, I got Chase Baker pulled up.
He's got Country Song. That's a real good one.
That's the new one. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that one out. Because I'm always down. I end up working on some country stuff from time to time, so it's nice to have some new blood coming through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was working. I work with this dude named James Tucker, who's from here, who very much into that. Like he's got a really good like little catchphrase like brand, and he's called like Crooked Teeth Country.
Oh, nice.
I was like, bro, and like you get it, like just from that, you get it. And he's into this like 80s, 90s, like almost Merle Haggard-y kind of thing, but like songwriter, like telling a story with just him and an acoustic guitar. He does some really good. He does some really cool stuff. I do some mixing work for him.
And this has been going on for a while, but I think I want to say it's Landmarks. I think that's how you say it. I've always been curious. Yeah, but bro, man, those guys are fucking awesome. They're so good.
So my buddy plays guitar for the Ghost Inside, and he was so stoked about because he had them on their French.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And he had them on their French run of shows that they were doing.
Oh, nice.
Also, fun fact about that band: the primary songwriter and the guitarist is from the band Chunk No Captain Chunk.
Oh wow, no fucking way.
Yeah, same.
I did not know that.
This is Landmarks is basically like
the evolution of Chunk. No Captain Chunk?
So because I think Chunk is still a thing.
Okay,
but like it's basically like Chunk is his like I want to write pop punk kind of stuff with some heavy breakdowns, and Landmarks is his I'm just gonna write the just dirtiest heavy music possible.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then of course that new Knocked Loose, those 2 singles they put out.
Bro, how they just gonna randomly drop the hardest singles they've ever dropped in their entire life?
Man,
just on a
it's
whim
crazy.
On a
and
Thursday
what makes it better is that the video is the combination of both songs and how they filmed it in the storyline and everything. I'm like, this is a really fucking good video.
Big brain moves, dude. They're
for
so
real, dude.
Especially when it comes to them being creative. I feel like they are some of the best like creative minds in heavy music right now.
Yeah. And then what's going on with like I know they did Coachella, and then like you got like Billie Eilish like posting about them or something.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
And then all these other pop artists or whatever are just like getting into heavier groups and stuff. So
it's super cool. I feel like the rise of heavy music into the mainstream has been like a slow but consistent climb. And like Knock Loose being a part of that, I feel like you've seen more hardcore. Really, I've noticed it being a lot more a hardcore band thing rather than like metalcore. Or anything like that. Like who was it that they got nominated for a Grammy
this previous year?
Yeah, I want to say that's what it was.
What was the category? What, metal performance?
Maybe.
No, Ozzy won the 2023. Unless there was more.
No, they got nominated. They didn't win.
Turnstile.
Turnstile. Yeah, and like same thing for them. It's like they're in that same pocket of like hardcore adjacent, bands, which music, like. Yeah,
Code Orange also got nominated too, that was another thing. Like they're like kind of like way closer to hardcore than metalcore.
Yeah. It's very interesting. And I feel like that's a weird thing. It's like the hardcore subgenre gets like way more industry love, which is the strangest thing to me. You have like even just those 3 bands, Turnstile, Knock Loose, and Code Orange, are like huge.
Yeah.
Turnstile was one of those things where like I was really shocked when I saw that they were nominated because like it's just such a weird record, but then like also I think it's such a weird record that people were like, oh, this is sick. Like it feels like punk is back, because we really haven't had any like bands like that. At least like since I've been alive that like kind of popped up and did a bunch of stuff and I think it's super cool.
Yeah. And I think there's other things when it comes to like just with the overall spectrum of music and the trends, you know, that we kind of talked about earlier, like with the, you know, the 90s, how it was grunge and alternative. And then, you know, we started creeping into like the new metal stuff, like the Limp Bizkits and Korn, Linkin Park, all that stuff. Back then, that stuff was, you know, on the top, you know, like it was very popular charting stuff that, you know, all that stuff, people knew about them. But I also think it might have been something, obviously, from a politics standpoint within the labels and what they wanted to do, because you know how much they control everything. Yeah. As far as like what they want big, what they want small, what artists want to be in the front, you know,
what they choose to push and
I think like even looking back at like what Woodstock '96 or whatever, like I think the last one that they did and how chaotic it was and everything, and I think there was a documentary saying like, oh, back then the '90s it was like the white male was like aggressive and this kind of music was popular. Now it's like shifted, you know what I'm saying, to like something else, and it's just like that's not. It's a very weird like social thing if you look at like the trend of music and how it turned around.
I saw this whole thread about how basically like all of the post-hardcore bands that we all loved, it was like all somehow related to like a Republican campaign fund at some point.
What?
Dude, it was like actually insane. I have to find the thread because it was probably the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. It was something along the lines of like, we need more Republican voters because like kids aren't Republican. Yeah. And so they were like basically working with churches to push for ways to get more kids involved in the church so then they could be taught values that would then have them vote Republican.
That's crazy.
It's actually insane. And I was like, you know what? Guess what? I never voted Republican, and I still love Under Oath, so it didn't work.
Right. Because now,
it was actually the craziest thing I probably ever read in my life. I was like, I actually can't believe this.
That's insane.
That's
crazy. So I'm like, when did this start? Like 05, I guess. Like that.
Oh, like early, like early 2000s, late 90s.
Wow.
Yeah. So like Zayo and stuff.
So I'm like Tooth and Nail and Solid State. That was the op, I guess. I'm assuming.
That was probably
dude. I guess
they got that Republican money, dog.
Yeah, that's
The CEO of Solid State is actually Ted Cruz.
Hey, yo. I wouldn't be mad at that. I'd be like, Ted, you had a great music taste back in the day,
funny,
man.
Hey, man, like, honestly, a lot of your takes now are, like, kind of bad, but your takes back in the day, dude, you picked up some great bands.
Solid, bro. Yeah.
Dude, Demon Hunter, come on, bro.
August Burns Red? Bro, you didn't miss.
Yeah, no misses, bro.
That's so funny. Well, dude, hey, thanks so much for coming on.
Oh yeah, man.
And chatting and talking music and we've been going for about an hour 30 almost. So don't want to be respectful of everybody's time.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, dude, why don't you take a second and drop your socials and where people can check you out and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, so my socials for everything are Darth Moon, 2 underscores in between Darth and Moon. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever you use, you just check me out there. But yeah,
honestly,
man,
if you type in Darth Moon into the search, you'll
it probably should just pop up.
It should probably be. Yeah, because it's like you with like a black thing. It's pretty sick, actually.
That was I had to do that, man. I was like, this is a good branding thing. Like, let me wear the Darth face mask and have the photographer just make my eyes orange and stuff.
Yeah, no, that was sick. I dig it. But if website or anything like that, if people want to check it out, or you just mostly run through the socials.
Yeah, just socials. I mean, in this day and age, that's all you need anyway.
Sick, dude. No, for sure. Well, go check him out. Go give him a follow and reach out and say what's up. And he's always down to talk nerd stuff. But dude, thanks so much for coming and hanging out. Josh, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, of course.
Listeners, thanks for listening and hanging out. We will see you next week.
See you guys.